Remakes, huh? Some love them, some hate them. But at this point, we do gotta admit, we're not getting away from them. While some studios do take it a bit far, remakes and remasters can give a second life to older games that the modern gamer may not ever touch. Am I personally pleased by the fact that when a remake comes out, the original gets delisted from all storefronts? That is, if they were ever on modern storefronts to begin with? Well, no. I am particularly displeased by that fact. But at this point, fighting against remakes is as effective as going outside and punching the rain. I need to find a silver lining where I can, right? At least the games are still being played. One game series that has never shied away from a remake, also is my favorite game series, is Resident Evil. The best part about it is they are generally very respectful of the source material, which is central to a good remake as far as I'm concerned. Notice I did say generally respectful. That means not this one. But Resident Evil is far from brand new when it comes to remakes and remasters. RE1, originally released in 1996, got a full remake in 2002, which was then remastered in 2015 for the RE1 HD remaster, which is currently accessible on storefronts. At the same time of the RE1 remake, Resident Evil 0, the prequel, got its own HD remaster in 2016. Resident Evil 2, originally released in 1998, got a full remake in 2019, and it's perfect. Code Veronica, released in 2000, got an HD remaster back in 2011, lovingly referred to as CVX, which is out of order in the timeline, but I morally couldn't include it before RE2. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis got we'll call it a reimagining in 2020, and Resident Evil 4 got its remake in 2023.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Now, a few years removed from the most recent remake, and with Resident Evil Requiem out, people are foaming at the mouth wondering which direction Capcom might go for the next remake. Every day, people are making posts and articles and spreading rumors about which game it's gonna be. And by the way, they don't fucking know. Don't believe anyone, okay? It's birdshot. If they say every possible game is the next one, then one of those will be right. But let's have a think tank about it anyway. Viewing the series from a wide lens, Resident Evil 5 is a natural choice considering that it's the next entry in the mainline series. CVX is another popular option since it's a beloved spin-off, and also, despite only being remastered 4 years before Resident Evil 1, visually it is much rougher. This can be attributed to the fact that RE1 2015 and RE0 2016 both use pre-rendered backgrounds. This is, just as it sounds, a technique where images are rendered ahead of time before being placed into the game, meaning the system isn't rendering those backgrounds in real time, thus allowing those resources to focus on only rendering models. In contrast, CVX uses real-time rendering on its 3D models and its environments, meaning the system is working much harder for worse-looking results. There are also less popular rumors around a Resident Evil 1 remake again, which, gosh, I hope not. Like, I would play it, but I think RE1 HD Remaster is beautiful, and it would kill me a little bit inside to see Spencer Mansion with an over-the-shoulder camera. Plus, I can't even think what another remake would add to the experience, except, I guess, if people just hate fixed camera angles. Now, that all said, I have a different horse I'm backing in this race.
Resident Evil 0.
I think the game that should be the next remake is Resident Evil 0. Not because I love the game, au contraire mon frère, I hate this pile of shit. Rather, I think RE0 needs a remake in order to rectify the mile-long list of baffling decisions made by the development team. Because almost all the complaints I have about this game are decisions, choices that they made and could unmake if they were given a second opportunity. At least I hope they wouldn't make the same decisions. Consider my whole opinion null and void if they do. Now you may ask, Bun, what could be so wrong with Resident Evil 0? Thank you for asking. I am fully prepared and frankly ecstatic to provide you with an itemized list of my grievances with Resident Evil 0. Simultaneously, consider each complaint to be a justification for why it desperately needs a remake to be worth anyone's time. Let's get into it. RE0's story is centered around Star's beta team, the less cool, less accomplished younger brother of Star's alpha team. There's a lot of members of beta team, but none of them really matter except for one, Rebecca Chambers. Ultimately, the only survivor of the team and object of obsession for Albert Wesker. Why is he like this? After their helicopter crashes in the Arklay Mountains, Rebecca finds a mysterious and convenient slew of vehicles in the forest, starting with an overturned prison transport, with the officers dead and the prisoner absent. Said prisoner is Billy Cohen. Psst. That's our second main character. He was mid-transport for a lethal injection due to... Wait, he's 5'9"? He is monstrous next to Rebecca, and my man's not even 6 foot? What's Rebecca's damn height? "5'3"? She's not even 100 pounds! Who let her in the police, let alone a special force? Okay, I gotta move on. We're moving on. If you've never in your life heard of Billy Cohen, I would not be surprised. This leads me to my first complaint, although this is likely more systematic than a remake could resolve. The story feels inconsequential, so removed from the lore of the rest of the games. It has, at best, a negligible effect on the rest of the timeline. If Zero was just poof, gone, what really would change in the world of Resident Evil? Basically nothing. Now, if I were feeling particularly saucy and wanted to start a fight in my comment section, I could mention that if RE4 were similarly gone, not much would change in that scenario either. That game is basically just Leon Kennedy's European getaway to harass some Spanish folk. But there are two big differences between those. RE4 is at least mentioned in future games, even if it's just a single throwaway line in RE5. RE0 rated no such consideration. Secondly, the way the characters develop after the game is over. Leon has a clear, systematic development, obvious in even just his combat style. He clearly grows in RE4 and retains it in future games. Whereas Billy, reported dead by Rebecca, disappears off the face of the earth with a platonic salute and a farewell thumbs up. Rebecca, for her part, trots into Spencer Mansion, reporting for duty in RE1, and promptly pisses her pants at the sight of a single hunter, completely Metroided from anything she pulled off in Zero. Can this largely be attributed to the curse of being a prequel? I'm sure part of it, yeah, but they could have done something. Like Billy served in the Marines in Africa, and RE5 is in Africa. They could have made something happen there, they just didn't. Back to Rebecca and the veritable vehicle graveyard in the Arklay Mountains, she next finds a whole train, stopped right in the middle of the forest. This is the Ecliptic Express, a train owned and operated by Umbrella Pharmaceutical for the purposes of commuting employees into their remote mountain facilities. But why is it just stopped right there? Investigating the train, Rebecca finds all the passengers have been made into zombies. And she also finds...
Billy. Lieutenant Cohen.
So, you seem to know me. Been fantasizing about me, have you?
They decide to work together to escape their situation because, much to her chagrin, Rebecca is not really a fighter. She's a healer, and she needs Billy's help. Immediately after that kick-ass scene, we meet our villain. Well, one of our villains, since Umbrella is kind of a constant overarching problem. Anyway, I would never be able to do this scene any justice by narrating it, so here it is in its totality.
Who Who is that guy?
So, spoiler, Umbrella injected leeches with the progenitor virus to make the T virus extra effective or contagious or something equally evil. And this tenor opera singer on the mountaintop is able to control them with his voice. Does this make any sense? No. Do I have any complaints about it? No, I do not. Actually, the campy villain is one of the only things I do like. You leave him alone. We've now reached the crux of what makes Zero unique and also causes a lot of its issues. The dual protagonist gameplay. Billy and Rebecca are both equally playable main characters and can be swapped between at any time at the player's total discretion. This is a distinct departure from any other Resident Evil game to this point, and to date, the only comparable game would be Revelations 2. What the game never tells you is that while using them together, the player can still control the secondary character's movement separately. The primary character's movement is on the left joystick, and the secondary character's movement is on the right joystick. The secondary character can happily move completely off camera so long as you're able to keep track of the scene, any obstacles, and the enemies. This is, in practice, way too difficult to use effectively, barring the top 1% of Zero players, which are mostly going to be speedrunners. For me, who's not an RE0 speedrunner, there are just way too many rooms to keep track of. Certainly to the point that I'm able to navigate them blind. And the movement is so clunky that I willfully reject the offer to participate in it twice as much. Like tank controls on a joystick? Who uses tank controls on a joystick? Zero only offers a few preset controller options, and for some reason, none of these presets match the default controls for the RE1 remake that came out that exact same year. I can't even tell you how many times I would swap characters when I meant to open my inventory. At this point, that heartbeat sound effect triggers my fight or flight response. When it comes to combat, while running them together, the player will be in control of one of them, and the other's behavior is controlled by a customizable AI. I say customizable, but the AI setup is very basic, and amounts to, do I want Billy to Donald Duck me and use all my grenade launcher ammo? The answer is no. So often it winds up being an escort simulator for the advanced. This point is underscored by the fact that Billy and Rebecca are not created equal. Granted, each have their strengths and their weaknesses, and certain actions can only be accomplished by one or the other. Both are central to proceed forward. It just so happens that Billy's strengths tend to be more useful than Rebecca's. Namely, he has more health, he has a higher crit rate, and a higher rate of fire since his firing animation is less affected by recoil. Rebecca can mix herbs. That's it. That's her strength. The only thing that really makes sense to do given those parameters is have Billy as my point character with Rebecca shadowing him as a sentient herb pouch. Sometimes I won't even have her carrying a gun. Just chalk a block with healing items. It makes Rebecca feel like an unimportant accessory when that is just not the way a quote-unquote main character should be treated. With that, welcome to the meat of the potatoes, the crux of the issues which can all be attributed to very confusing decisions made by the devs. I will try to include their reasoning, such as it is, for why they did these things, but at the end of the day, I'm not able to accept these explanations since, despite any amount of reasoning, I've played the game. I've seen the cracks in the foundation, and how they didn't see those same hairline cracks, I'm not sure. So let's talk about the combat. If I had to come up with a single descriptive word to encompass the combat experience, it would be cumbersome. A combination of an old-school playstyle with aggressive, hypermobile enemy designs on top of a lack of iframes makes the game generally unenjoyable. I'm not adverse to a high degree of difficulty in games. I'm not being some whiny little bitch just because I died a couple times. This doesn't amount to an organic challenge, it's entirely manufactured by way of a disjointed system. RE0 has a very standard combat style for fixed camera, tank control horror games. You ready your weapon, and it will automatically target the closest enemy, and then you press a secondary button to fire. This is perfectly serviceable if enemies come to you in relatively straight paths. A situation where it wouldn't be as serviceable would be, I don't know, if enemies can rebound off of walls, bippity-boppity booing all over the place and coming at you from 6 possible directions. Anyone who has played this game knows I'm referring specifically to the Eliminators. They are infected monkeys or chimpanzees or something, and clearly are pack animals. You never see a solo Eliminator, it's always gotta be in multiples. They are fast as hell, and will attack simultaneously from above, from below, jumping off of walls. A terrible design choice for a slow combat style. And as a big ol' middle finger, Eliminators have iframes. You wanna guess who doesn't have iframes? While the Eliminators are the most egregious example, they are not the only ones. An early boss in this game is this bat in the belfry on steroids. If it was only a giant bat, even if it is flying around my head, I could work with that. That would be fine. Difficult, still, given that it can pick you up and take you for a ride, but fine. Problems arise, as they are wont to, when it starts birthin' babies. It will summon waves of little bats, which also just fly around and dive bomb. If you remember, the first thing I said when I explained how the combat worked was that it automatically targets whoever is closest. Having an endless supply of ad enemies occupying the same space as the boss, whom I actually need to hit, makes for an arduous experience. I could certainly keep going. Maybe mention how hunters will know the very instant you enter a room whether they actually see you or not. Or maybe harp on the battalion of leech men with their go-go gadget extendo arms and stupid jazz flute solo that announces their presence. But I'm ready to move on, because the next one is a doozy. Resident Evil 0 has no item box. There is no system to store items and access it later. Instead, what we have is this system where the characters can drop an item from their inventory and it goes back onto the ground. The world is your item box. I have many complaints stemming from this, but first let's discuss how we got there. Where did they come up with this idea? For that answer, we have to go back to 1989 and the release of a game called Sweet Home. A Japan-only release for the Family Computer, aka the Famicom, Sweet Home was a single-player role-playing game made by Capcom, who makes Resident Evil. It's widely cited as the inspiration for Resident Evil 1 in 1996, and by way of that fact, laid quite a bit of the framework for the survival horror genre in general. Zero, specifically, took that inspiration an additional step further. In a 2002 interview with Tatsuya Minami, the producer of Zero, he explicitly named Sweet Home as the inspiration behind removing the item box. You see, Sweet Home has 5 playable characters, and you can run with groups of 1 to 3 of them at your complete discretion. It's a standard tactic for one group to leave an item behind for the trailing group to pick up, in case they need it. That's where the idea for dropping shit on the ground like we're at a military supply yard sale came from. But there are so many items, and between both our characters, we have a total of 12 inventory slots, which is not as many as it sounds, especially considering that Zero has a bunch of items that are 2 inventory blocks each. The lack of item box devolves into picking a central room that you like and just piling all your crap there, trying not to lose anything in the territory between camera angles. Not even that's foolproof, since they have a cap on how many items can be in a single room, likely due to RAM limitation. Beyond that, the map for Zero is pretty linear. They move you in a straight line from building to building with no shortcuts back until the very last section of the map, the treatment plant, connects you back to the first location, the training facility. If you happen to need any items that you left in your special little room between that time, you have to walk your butt all the way back through. Backtracking is a way of life in this game, which means you're going through rooms at least 3 times. And yes, they do add new enemies. It's all just working against you to make the experience as miserable as possible. If it was strictly a matter of choosing between weapons and items with my full discretion of leaving anything completely behind and just having to forge my way with what I have, I wouldn't mind that as much. But there's one key item in particular that screws with everything: the hook shot. This exists so Rebecca can climb up a level when there's no stairs or ladder. There are 4 areas throughout the game for it to be used, and they are all necessary to proceed. This is not optional. It's basically some sort of gotcha for new players where they realize they need the hookshot halfway through the game when they left it back near the beginning. As an extra fuck you, when it's used for the last time, they don't notify the player that it has no further use, so beginners may very well carry it with them for the remainder of the game when they just don't need it. Oh yeah, and it'll take 2 of your precious inventory slots. Have fun, fuckers. They hate us. Which, yeah, okay. Got 'em. A big gotcha for new players, but experienced players still have to center their game plan around babysitting this hookshot, placing it as close as possible to the next area it's needed, just to mitigate as much backtracking as they can. Its mere existence, paired with the lack of item box, makes the game tedious. Rated E for everyone. The biggest crime in RE0 is how much I could have liked it. I adore campy villains and cheesy cutscenes, and there is certainly no lack of either in this game. Even while mid-waterboarding, this scene always gets me to laugh.
I will take over your research.
But the whole time in between those bright spots, it is mired down by fundamental issues, rendering it, frankly, unpleasant to play. While it is exciting to wait and see what the next remake is going to be, I hope that they decide to give Zero the second chance it deserves without the pile of issues. That's all for me though. Thank you to my members. Mwah! And I'll see you next time. Bye bye!